Welcome. It's chat number 25 and the last chat of this part of the series anyway, of what does nature mean to you? And tonight I'm really happy to be speaking to Julia Plevin, who is the author of The Healing Magic of Forest Bathing, beautiful book, and the founder of the Forest Bathing Club, and does lots of other work too, which hopefully she'll be able to speak to us about her work with nature, being informed by nature. So yeah, very excited. So she'll be joining any minute now. But while we wait, just to say, yes, this is the last chat in this part of the series, but there have been some amazing people getting in touch saying that they would like to take part in a conversation. So I'm definitely going to make space for that and really excited to do that. But I will probably try and do it maybe on something like a weekly basis or fortnightly or I don't know. I'm going to take some space and just kind of collect all the thoughts about it all and then work out how I can do that and make sure that I don't sign myself up to anything too much at the same time. So I will work that out. But in the meantime, I will be back on Sunday, this Sunday, the 6th of December at 8:30 p.m. as well, turning the questions on me because apparently that's what people would like to know. So I'm going to invite everyone to come and ask me questions if they would like to as well, especially previous guests, anyone that is free to hop on and ask anything they would like if they want to. It's been such a pleasure listening to everyone and just absorbing all their voices, their ideas, their experiences, and it's been so nourishing, more than I imagined I could possibly have imagined for me, and hopefully for you if you've been listening, watching. But it's also been really quite tiring too, in a lovely way. I finished the chats and I can't switch my brain off afterwards, and I end up staying up till really late because my brain's just chattering over all the ideas. So I'm looking forward to possibly getting some earlier nights, which is again why I don't necessarily want to be doing it nightly. So, but we've had fantastic people. If you haven't had a chance to look at other chats, if this is the first ones you're looking at, just scroll back through my Instagram homepage or feed, an IGTV channel. And I have just started uploading them onto YouTube as well, if that's easy for people to watch them. There's been authors, artists, wellbeing practitioners, therapists, chefs, probably other people I've forgotten now, but so many adventurers, life coaches, celebrant, ceremonialist. So lots of really wonderful people have given their time from the UK, from further afield, from India, and tonight Julia is calling from Portland, I think, in America as well. So it's been a wonderful bunch of voices. So definitely fully encourage you to sort of skip back through and catch up. So while I sit here and wait for Julia to come and join, I know there's a couple of people watching. Hi, thank you. Always helps. If anyone has any questions or anything that they want to ask, then feel free to. Otherwise, let me just tell you a bit more about Julia while we wait for her to come. So Julia Plevin, it was funny. I actually know Julia from hi everyone, from my time living in Vietnam, but I didn't realise that Julia had become a big voice in nature connection work until a couple of years ago when I was starting my studies into it, and I was reading this book and I thought, I really recognise that name. And then it suddenly dawned on me, I know Julia. So an absolute pleasure to be invited to speak with me tonight. and reconnect. I've not spoken to Julia really, other than some emails and messages, since our time in Hanoi, Vietnam. So she's just joined the conversation and just waiting for her to connect. And there we are. Hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. So good. I decided I retired from Instagram Live, but then I wanted to do one with you because I just wanted to catch up and say hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, no, I remember seeing a bit through this year that you've stepped back a little bit from social media at times, or perhaps changed your relationship a little bit with it. So I knew when I reached out it might be a gamble, but I'm very pleased you said yes.
Oh, yay.
I was just explaining to people my sort of that penny dropping moment as I was reading your book and realizing that, oh, it's Julia.
Oh my God. I don't think I mentioned anything about Hanoi in there, do I?
Not when I was reading it. I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
No, it was just, I think I'd even been following you on Instagram beforehand, or and in the Forest Bathing Club, and going, I really know that name. I really know. So I love how that's kind of matched up. But I have done a bit of a job of introducing you, but I wondered if you wanted to just let people know a little bit more about who you are and what you do and where you do it.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I live in the forest. You can kind of see it out there. It's a pretty sunny day. It's a little bit cold though, so I actually after this I'm like I gotta get outside. I haven't been outside yet today, which to me is like I went outside for like 2 minutes to do like a little morning greeting, but yeah, I gotta get outside every day. And I'm in the Cascades Siskiyou National Monument, which is in the mountains east of Ashland, Oregon. So I actually live in the forest. Moved here a year ago with my partner, and it's pretty wild. Yeah, it's like a protected land. The Pacific Crest Trail that goes from Mexico to Canada goes right through here. So we like hike on the PCT all the time, and there's lots of pine trees and fir trees, and I see wolf and bear and like just so many different types of birds. It's really a amazing place and a healing place to get to be. But yeah, so I started the Forest Bathing Club out of my own healing, process, and it just so happened it was at the time when forest bathing was really taking off, and so it became a thing, and I was even like shocked a little bit, and then I wrote the book on the healing magic of forest bathing, and yeah, now pre-COVID, I was leading a lot of forest baths, and forest bathing is still something you can do, because it's outside, but living in the forest, I haven't been doing it as much. Like, it was easier when I was living in the city because more people needed it. Here, people are like, yeah, we know. We know about it. But I do offer a lot of like some online programs and some mentoring for people who want to deepen their own connection to nature and to come into their, to me it's like their wholeness, right, is what we get when we connect to nature.
Yeah, I've loved a lot of the posts and writings that you've put out of that sort of that sharing of that, and even showing a real awareness of our roots and the land's roots, and kind of paying a lot of respect to that. And I thought that message was really important, and our own healing journeys and what we've discovered accidentally. I think both you and I didn't mean to be part of some wellness trend, and if anything, that certainly made me go, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know about you for a moment till I remembered what the work was, but again, also kind of sitting in awareness of where it's come from, and exploring that a bit.
Yeah. I would love to hear too, like a little bit of what brought you, and I've seen a little bit of your shares, but I think what what I love, yeah, I feel the same way. I'm the kind of person where when something starts to become a trend, I'm like, oh, my work here is done, right? I'm ready for the next thing. Like, I don't need to be, but I think you're exactly right that this is, as far as I can tell, the biggest work, you know, of our lives, and we're sticking around for. And what I love is the universality of it, of people discovering this connection and having, this healing, and then being called to share it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I hear you about me sharing my side. I've heard a few people say this as well, and I'm going to do one of these chats later on in the week on Sunday where people can ask me questions, which I feel tremendously uncomfortable about. But but I hear that that's right. But certainly for me, although I think there's been a calling and a few things, and I look back that have made sense, that I was probably naturally seeking out nature, but certainly it was a health crisis, and well, that kind of led to losing everything else in life and a total reset that sent me in that direction, and a calling, knowing that actually just spending time out in my woods, I live nearby, was going to help me healing both physically and mentally. And that's what I found interesting in your story as well, that a lot of your I don't want to assume, but a lot of your recovery or healing has been also connected to a chronic health condition,
Mm-hmm.
Lyme's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered how that sets you up with a relationship with nature, which is something ultimately that you probably got from nature as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just a funny one. Right. I was first diagnosed with Lyme disease as a 18-year-old and was on all sorts of antibiotics all through college. And this was back in the day when Lyme, unfortunately, it's also become more mainstream, and people, it was back in the day when people didn't really believe it was real. And I wasn't even sure I believed it was real. It was one of those like invisible chronic illness that part of what makes us crazy is we're like, am I sick? Am I making it up? Is it in my head? Right. And so I really have dealt with all of that. And I do think it is real, and it also is a mentality, right? And like nature has helped me see how to heal that, and that core wound of like the disconnection. And I was actually talking to my fiance about this yesterday. In modern society, in men there's a lot of anger we see, right? And women, there's a lot of chronic illness. And I actually see it as two sides of the same thing, of this like disconnection from nature and from community and from things that heal. And so yeah, it is, so a lot of things helped me heal Lyme. Like I wouldn't say like, oh, force bathing helped me heal, but it did help me heal my mind, which helped me heal my body. Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, when our mind is in a more calm state, literally a physiological rest, digest, then it helps everything else as well. Julie, I know that you've got limited time tonight, so I kind of wonder if I could kind of skip through. I don't know if I forewarned you. I've been forewarning everyone else with these sort of three core questions I've been asking
oh,
people in this
okay.
series. I didn't, so we'll just go for it.
I don't know what I jumped into. I'm here for it.
Well, I've kind of been keeping a rough same three questions. The first one being, what is your earliest memory of connecting to nature in some way?
Yeah, I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., so in the suburbs, and always felt called to nature, and was lucky enough that we lived like near the Potomac River, so I could go down to the river. And I was a runner, so I'd like I loved running the trails around there and just being down there. But I guess like a big aha was when I was 16 years old and I finally got it's not my first connection, but like when I finally got my license and I could drive, the first place I drove was to my favorite spot along the Potomac River. And, and it was like, oh, I can come here now. It's like I had all the freedom in the world. Where do I want to go? And it was like this spot by the river.
And obviously you've remained enormously connected in different ways, but I know you also kind of for quite some time were kind of more in the tech world and perhaps more city living, I guess. But what does nature mean to you now? We've talked about healing the mind and connect. How would you sum up what nature means?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very hard question. So yeah, and nature to me is, we are not separate from nature. So it's like a remembering. A lot of what I say when I lead forest baths is we don't need to learn how to do forest bathing. It's more of a remembering. And as kids, we naturally know, and it's just something that's been like taken out of us. So nature helps us remember who we are, and what we're here to do.
And has that changed at all this year, in this really difficult year for perhaps many of us? I don't know what your experience has been like over there, but I know earlier in the year, before even COVID coming along, you were experiencing the fires as well. And I wonder what your relationship with nature has felt like this year in particular.
Yeah, so yeah, we talked about Lyme disease, and I actually got bit by another tick, like a month after my book came out. So my book comes out 2019, and I'm like leading all these book talks, and I'm like, feel like I'm on top of the world, and then I got bit by another tick, and all of a sudden all of my symptoms from Lyme kind of came back. And at this point I knew enough to know that this tick has like a guidance for me. And so instead of reacting against it, I was like, okay, what is this trying to tell me? Where is it trying to lead me? And so I felt, first I needed to get out of the city, and I needed to be quieter and like deeper. I felt like, and you have to go in deeper into nature. Started going to a lot of hot springs, and then finally moved my whole life into the forest, which, yeah, as someone who didn't grow up in the forest and has lived in, big cities, that was quite the big transition. But yeah, so we were here before COVID and kind of wondering, like, why am I here? But then when COVID hit, it was like, oh, this is a great place to be. And I've actually started to take my work another step further beyond forest bathing into like, how do we live? How are we meant to live, right? Not just, it's great and it's important to go into nature daily for our healing, but how do we bring that into how we live our lives, and how do we live a life that is in harmony with nature?
And being, I guess, then living where you are now, then you're being not forced exactly, but you're having to work in partnership all the time with nature and constantly learning, I guess.
Yeah, learning, and I've been studying a lot of like permaculture, so learning how to grow food and save seeds, and like learning how to forage and take care of the forest, which, as you mentioned with the fires, that's like a big thing. Is fire is really important, to this region, and it's a sacred practice of that indigenous people had been doing, of tending these forests, that we stopped doing, and now they are out of control. But so how do we take care of these forests, which is the next step, right? The forest has taken care of me and helped me, and how can I now take care of the forest?
Absolutely, yeah, that reciprocal relationship again, and connect and protect. The third question I've been asking people is, what would your advice be? And it's kind of general, but you can take that as you wish to connect to nature. But before we even get to that, I plant it in there, and then we've only got a couple more minutes with you. I just kind of wanted to ask that extra thing about what was your relationship with nature in Vietnam, because I've kind of introduced you as we knew each other in a pretty busy, hectic city of Hanoi.
Yeah.
And I look back now and know that I found that quite difficult, and maybe didn't compute all the reasons why. But I wonder what you reflect back on that experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I had just moved to Hanoi from university, and where I went to school, it was really rural. So I'd spent a lot of time in the forest, you know, or like living in nature, and I was craving an urban experience. And I think maybe like early 20s, I also had that, like I could handle that. And it's only as I've gotten older that, you know, I've needed more slow. But I was loving, you know, and I loved living in New York City for parts. Like I love the busyness and that hecticness, and I think had that in my system of needing to experience it. And like kind of thrived in some ways in urban living. Um, Also in Hanoi, I think there was just so much I was like learning and experiencing, and like the culture and so many places to travel to. Like I learned how to scuba dive, and you know, would go on those motorbiking trips. So there was like, it kind of fed that like adrenaline side of things. You know, we did some cool mountain climbing. It wasn't a spiritual experience, I would say, but I also think that it might have been implanting in me subconsciously. Like I think, you know, I went back to Japan and studied like forest bathing, and but I think in Vietnam there might be like a spirituality that I might not have picked up on at the time, but that was like present and was feeding me in some way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I remember very much the same as you, thriving off that energy and that craziness, but also being really aware that my nervous system was constantly stimulated, and knowing that probably wasn't healthy for me. And I can remember a particularly busy time. I was doing amazing things, you know, probably around when you were there. You know, we were really busy in theatre company and partying a lot too. And a friend kind of picked me up, popped me on the back of the motorbike, and took me up to Bar V, the national forest not that far. And I didn't know quite what was happening then, but just those couple of days where I had nothing to do but just be, and I think that helped me enough. I hadn't quite figured it all out, so I'd go from those extremes. But as you say, age plays a part in that too. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
even in the middle of that city, you've got the big lakes, you've got some temples with some garden that give you that sort of that green space and quietness in some way. But aware that, you know, there's not much time left with Julia. So what would your advice be to others in some
yeah,
way?
yeah. Well, first I want to share something that, you know, I think I had a feeling of like adrenaline, you know, like, and this still happens, like wanting to climb the mountain to the top, right? And like wanting to run a marathon or bike 100 miles, and like and I've had to balance that with the forest bathing, which is just no, the medicine of being still and not doing. And in our society where we think going to nature means having these like extreme experiences, where how do we actually just learn how to like be still and listen and like be in relationship. So and and now I think you can have it all. You can go for a long hike and enjoy that workout, and then you can also have times where you just are, you know, sitting by the river and watching it. But you know, I think for people who do, again, I had a lot of that in Vietnam, those like adventures. And so I think, you know, there's something, maybe this goes into the advice too, of like noticing your relationship with nature. And when you go outside, is it for exercise? Is it for like, what is it for? And um how can you expand and grow that relationship? And one way that I found that growing my relationship with nature has helped me grow relationships in my life. So how might you expand your relationship with nature is like, and with a new friend, what would you do if you met a new friend, right? You would ask them questions, you would maybe give them a little gift or an offering, or just spend some time, or, you know, so I think that is some advice, is just like, um, yeah, growing that relationship.
I love that. I really love that. Thank you. Sort of such simple advice, and yet often one we probably don't think of in every day. So beautiful. Thank you. Before I let you go and carry on with your day, was there anything else that you wanted to add? And do you want to let people know anything about what you're doing, or following you, or whether you're keeping a low profile, whatever you would like to do?
Yeah, you know, um I've been keeping like a like a lot of this work is like inquiry into like myself too, and I feel like I'm someone who needs a lot of time for self inquiry to be able to offer things. But I do send out a pretty regular newsletter through the Forest Bathing Club. So if you go to www.forestbathing.club, you can sign up for my newsletter. I put a lot of like heart and soul into that and share resources and just like stories, and so that would be a great place to start. And then when I do have offerings, I'll always share it there too.
Fantastic. Yeah, I definitely recommend people signing up to that newsletter. And as you say, there's a lot of resources and a lot of sharing of free resources for people, which I think is really important, again, as we share this work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know I want to just keep like catching up, so maybe we'll have this another time too.
I know. Well, let's do it another time, maybe without an audience.
Yeah.
And then we can properly catch up. That'd be really lovely.
I would love that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you. I will wave you on your way and speak to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a great evening.
Have a nice afternoon. Yes.
Yeah.
Bye. Take care. Oh, so lovely. Yeah, there's so much more to ask her. I definitely recommend checking out Julia's work and her website as well. It talks a bit more about what she does and some of the deeper work that she's been doing. I'm just going to plug her book one more time as well, because it's such a beautiful book, The Healing Magic of Forest Bathing. So that's it. This is the last one of this series. I love that I'm saying this series, because it looks like it's going to be a second series. But join me Sunday, the 6th of December, so this Sunday, 8:30 p.m. UK time. I'll be hopping on here and answering the 3 questions I've been asking everyone else. And if you have any questions for me, then you are more than welcome.